Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever it is in the world you are streaming here on Twitter as well as on YouTube. Those of you joining us across the web, what's happening, people? Monday, Q&A safe space. Did I get that wrong? I think the tweet. Oh, I see. Things always change. Things always change. Every single time I try and upload a stream to the new Twitter UX, something is different. But at least they're working on it, not just letting it die into the abyss the same way that they did Periscope and Vine. But that does unfortunately require me to stay on top of everything that's happening. What's up, Helwick? You're in here quick. That was quite the weekend of college footy. A little bit earlier episode of today's show, people, because I need to head to the airport, headed to Nevada for Christmas, and my flight is this evening. So I wanted to stop in and say hello, make sure we keep the usual Monday, Wednesday, Friday cadence, even though Wednesday we won't have a show because it's New Year's Eve and there's no NBA games being played. So there's really no purpose for that. You're welcome, White Nose. We do the show rain, wind, or shine. What's the saying? Rain something or whatever. You guys get it. Logan says, I'm mourning the death of hard-hitting journalism. It's been dead, but 60 Minutes was always the last line of defense against everything that is obviously happening. I don't mean for this stream to be turned political, but I think the world knows at this point what happened with 60 Minutes having to can a story yesterday because the brand new editor-in-chief said it's not ready, even though it was screened by lawyers and fact-checked and all the above. 60 Minutes has dealt with this in the past, by the way, and they made a movie about it called The Insider, where Big Tobacco and their influence got to 60 Minutes and made them remove a story from air, but it ended up being broadcast a couple of months later. I hope that's the case here again, but 60 Minutes has always been the standard bearer of objective reporting. And now it's not. I was watching that story last night about the Sherpas, which was awesome. Cecilia Vega had to train for the story. She flew to Kathmandu, the 8-day process or 10-day process of getting to Everest Base Camp. Like that would have complemented the investigation story about the Salvadorian prison so well. Perfect 60 Minutes slate. And I felt like I was tasting some spoiled milk watching that lifestyle story without its proper investigative partner as a part of the slate. That's all. To talk about 2 points from Cat. Why? All Cat has been doing for the Knicks is everything that they've needed. His aggressiveness in the paint this season compared to last, where he was doing a lot more pick and popping and a lot more stationary 3-point action. He has been violent as hell. The Bodega Cat has been on full display. I think that's what the Knicks have needed a lot more than, we already know he's the unanimous best shooting big man in the world. But he had an off night, and Jalen Brunson went for his Madison Square Garden career high. The Knicks are clearly the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. And Brunson had been dormant compared to his clutch player of the year campaign last year. And now he's been resurrected, reignited. OG Anunoby's defense is more than vital and essential to shoring up the perimeter. So he's had some big time blocks and steals. The Knicks have been in the trenches together. In the playoffs, they have chemistry. They like each other. The new offensive system is complementing Mikal Bridges especially, permitting him to move around a little bit more. All is well. And Mitchell Robinson just is the best offensive rebounder of this entire generation. Ben Wallace, Dennis Rodman, Mitchell Robinson. The last 3 offensive rebounding generations will be will be defined by those three players. Mitchell Robinson with the biggest one yesterday. That leads to Jalen Brunson in the corner. And for those of you that didn't see, I just retweeted someone who did the research on the impact of Mitchell Robinson this season. And the statistic is Mitchell Robinson, including the Cup final, which obviously doesn't count towards official regular season ledger stats, but it was a game that was played. Mitchell Robinson has 95 offensive rebounds this year. 37 have led to a three-point attempt within 10 seconds. 20 of those have gone in, which is a percentage of 54%. And Mitchell Robinson has single-handedly assisted 15 out of 20 of those directly himself. That comes from Cade Pearson on Twitter. Appreciate you, Cade, for scraping that data. That's the impact of Mitchell Robinson and why he is the most important non-star in the Eastern Conference. That he can put up those stats and lead the league in second chance opportunities leading to three-pointers, playing only half of the minutes of second place. Just a fact. Cassius in the chat says, will we see the Diawara masterclass tomorrow? So here's the NBA in a nutshell. Jalen Brunson goes bonkers yesterday, puts on a dazzling performance. What usually happens after an NBA star just absolutely kills the night before? Injury management. Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby out for the Knicks game at Minnesota tomorrow night. I would assume that's in anticipation of Christmas Day so that those guys are healthy and ready to go, but you're not going to be getting back-to-back standout performances from those two as they will be in street clothes. Karl-Anthony Towns is not on the injury report, so he's going to return to Minnesota and maybe carry the team. Whoever commented that earlier as the show started, talk about Cat's 2 points. Well, he's going to have more than 2 points in Minnesota, that's for sure. Am I getting a table at Circa in Nevada? Asks Danny. No. I've outgrown my desire to sit in a sports book in Las Vegas because I can bet from tablets and remote devices. I can watch all the games on computers, and I don't need to pay $100 cover charge to reserve a table, hit the table minimum with drinks and food that's all overpriced and shitty, and just to be amongst other sports gamblers is not it used to be something I loved looking forward to when I was younger, but I have outgrown that, unfortunately. Please explain how my Raptors scored 81 points versus the Brooklyn Nets. Now, the Brooklyn Nets deserve the tiniest bit of credit because despite being, 7-18 on the season, they have been playing some good basketball as of late. They have one of the top defenses in the NBA in the last 10 games. Michael Porter Jr. is all of a sudden, I thought Lauri Markkanen was going to be the obvious, most realistic and desirable trade chip considering the cost to acquire him versus Giannis Antetokounmpo and James Harden. Those are major blockbuster deals. I thought maybe Markkanen and, now Michael Porter Jr. might cost you a lot less if you're in the business of needing those two players' qualities and outputs to get you to the finish line and win a championship. But long story short, Brooklyn Nets have been better at defense lately. The Raptors have been coming back down to earth. And the Raptors scored an amount of points in a full game yesterday against the Nets, not against OKC, against the Nets, that Chicago scored in the first half against Atlanta. 83 versus 81. 83 versus 81. That was the complete two polar opposite extremes of basketball being played yesterday. And I'm not sure I enjoyed either one, to be completely frank with you. There were some games, Rockets versus Kings, Knicks Heat, somewhere in the middle. And we talked about this just a couple of minutes ago on the show. But I think the perfect basketball game, if it's not going to be FIBA, it is free-flowing offense in the first half. You get a lot of fast breaks, displays of athleticism and talent by the star players. And I like personally when the game slows down in the half court in the final 5 minutes, especially when it's a clutch game, because that's when stars have to beat double teams that they have to create for themselves and hit tough shots. I like when the game slows down in the final couple minutes. Should be a busy night tonight, by the way. Shout out to our partners at ProfitX who are sponsoring this stream. Let me read the chat. Will Mitchell Robinson ever miss another free throw? He's 9 for his last 10, maybe 10 for his last 10. What was once 18% on the season has obviously soared. He's got that elbow. He added some arc to his. Sometimes it's just that simple. AK in the chat is asking, what trades should the Knicks go for at the deadline? The only name that I would desire to be moved, because I'm not trying to fix something that's not broken, and the Knicks' chemistry is just too good right now. They will get Deuce McBride and Landry Shamet back, and with now the emergence of Tyler Kolek being someone who can be trusted in those final minutes, plus Mitchell Robinson. They have 9 deep Jordan Clarkson. They've got 9 to 10 guys that they can go to that are trustworthy. But you have to assume injuries are going to happen, especially to Mitch. And are you going to battle against the Pistons with Huck Porty and Gershon Yabusele? I'm not completely sold on Yabu being long for this lineup. So something tells me he could potentially be moved and they bring in a floor-stretching big man, I don't know who that is, to be that break glass in case of emergency 4-5 off the bench. What's up, Nico? Man, I miss the days down in Buenos Aires too. I miss the 8:30 sunsets. I miss the little piano bar I would go to in Palermo, Soho, before the show begins. I miss the timing. It's funny is I don't like East Coast timing, but I loved Buenos Aires timing, which is 2 hours ahead of East Coast, because things are on there so late. It complements me perfectly as a night owl, because I get the entire day to go out and do cool shit, walk around, and if you wake up at a decent hour, you can have the full day before you spend your entire night working, because the SiriusXM show started at 6 p.m. and then the NBA games there don't end until 3 a.m. Go to bed at 4, wake up at 11. I don't mind that schedule at all. It allows you the opportunity to live a normal life because you don't have to be back until practically after dinner. So I enjoyed it very much. Nice people, willing to help out a tourist, all the above. I miss shopping. I miss shopping in the grocery stores. That's always fun. Little simple things like that. Helwick says, what do you make of the Rockets squandering 3 OT games in 1 week? I think it's ultimately going to lead us to a conversation of what are they missing? Because in the Western Conference, you have Denver and you have OKC. And for a little while there, it's like, where do we put Houston? Are they we know that they're in the conversation, but are they kind of tier 1B? And after what we've seen now, and it's not just against the Kings, they've been on a little bit of a road trip. They got their revenge against the Denver Nuggets after that win on Monday night gets spoiled. Not Monday night. Maybe it was last Monday. The first game where Tim Hardaway Jr. got fouled by Amen Thompson and the victory was stolen from them. They're starting to pile up these losses in which they're losing 1-possession games or in overtime regularly, sometimes against teams that they shouldn't be losing to. We know they're obviously talented, but if they want to beat OKC or Denver 4 out of 7 times, what is going to be required other than full troll mode from Kevin Durant against Bruce Brown, where he just goes off and just Godzilla breaths the entire Denver Nuggets defense? I don't know if you can rely on that 4 out of 7 times. And where their clear vacancy is right now is at the point guard position without Fred VanVleet. Obviously, no Jalen Green anymore because he was part of the trade. And if there's anyone out there who's in desperate need of a table setter, someone to captain that offense, slow it down and get people open, it's got to be the Houston Rockets and the Minnesota Timberwolves too, which makes me believe there's going to be two teams in the running for James Harden if he's made available by the Los Angeles Clippers. Minnesota and Houston should absolutely do everything they could to go get James Harden, because we know Harden's best position is point guard, traditional point guard. Every star that plays with him wants him on the ball, creating for others. And in Houston, with Fred VanVleet hurt, James Harden, obviously with the history with the franchise, I think would fit in seamlessly. I don't know if Kevin Durant likes him or wants to play with him again, but it is what it is. Minnesota cannot go to battle against those three teams with Mike Conley Jr. or Rob Dillingham. I can't trust them as far as I can throw them. So these teams need a James Harden to get back into that conversation. Otherwise, they're going to be hovering in that tier 2 and have a tough time closing out these games unless they're stars, Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant. If they are able to perform like the name on the back of their jersey that has that reputation, they're going to win you some games. But to beat OKC, it's going to take more than just individual star power like that. We've told this story how many times now? They need an additional creator. They need an additional floor general and someone that can create enough gravity so that Kevin Durant doesn't see double teams thrown at him the way that Sacramento was last night. They didn't even wait until the ball crossed half court to just get the ball out of his hands. We are willing to live with a wide open Jabari Smith Jr. or Josh Okogie 3 in the corner, or even Reed Shepherd. We are willing to live with that if it means Kevin Durant didn't get the opportunity. And they were wide the fuck open. The New Orleans Pelicans in the 25-point comeback were double teaming Kevin Durant every time he crossed half court. It is because they do not fear a secondary creator than your traditional high gravity guy that would make them think twice about double teaming Kevin Durant so obviously that they were telegraphing it. And they still weren't able to be punished because Reed Shepherd missed 2 straight wide open looks at the end of that Pelicans game. Steve says, I feel like they run too much through Şengün in the clutch moments. Okay, so it was the Pelicans game with the Rockets Friday, I think, where Ime Udoka doesn't call a timeout, 9 seconds left. Kevin Durant pushes the ball from the backcourt into the front court. Şengün gets it down on the block, and you can see Durant clapping for the ball back because he was quite literally, wasn't he that game where he was perfect, or was this the Nuggets game? It was either the Pelicans game or the first Nuggets game where Kevin Durant was perfect from the floor. He was feeling the gem all night, and he was expecting that ball to come back to him. That's why I pushed it into the front court so quickly, so that you could get a defense to collapse on top of you, and I'll be here to hit the actual shot. The ball doesn't come back to him. Şengün goes to a drop step little put shot. It was a decent look, but he ended up missing it. And then Kevin Durant was steaming, heading back to the huddle, because he's like, man, that should have been me. I took that shot. I think it was the Pelicans game where that happened. But Şengün is also worthy of running a lot of your offense through in the final minute or so. But when you have Kevin Durant, of course, he's got to be a priority. That's why you made the trade. And that is what separates last year's team from this one, is that dynamic of having such a closer that you almost absolutely have to utilize him any chance that you get. In the times that they don't, when he's not being blatantly double teamed, are going to stand out, especially when Şengün does not finish. Pelicans game, Kevin Durant was 12 of 15, but Şengün missed clutch buckets in regulation to end both games. 3 versus Denver, Hook versus NOP. So if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Durant 9 of 9 to start that game? Then he was 11 of 14, then 12 of 15. 11 of 14 at the end of regulation. but it felt like on those shots he was hitting, by the way, when he was 9 of 9, it wasn't layups. It was Kevin Durant back to the basket, turn, rip through, off the dribble, bucket, dead eye, swish, splash. It was like, oh my God, what are you supposed to do? Herb Jones was inside of his jersey. It just didn't even fucking matter. Danny says, in response to they run too much through Şengün, I think so too, and in general as well. They could definitely use a dynamic player like Harden. Do they become too stagnant do they become too obvious in the final couple of minutes where we know that Durant is trying to clear out and go to work? And then they have Okogie, Reed Shepherd, Amen Thompson. Well, to Amen's credit, everyone knows he can't shoot threes, but he always occupies the space necessary to not be in the way and still be a threat. Because I think that same game where Kevin Durant went 12 of 15, Amen Thompson only had a couple of misses too. So I'm trying to figure out why the Rockets can't win these close games, one of which was because Kevin Durant bit on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's pump fake in double overtime on opening night. Another was stolen from them by a very questionable Amen Thompson foul on Tim Hardaway Jr. when they were inbounding the ball. Houston probably should have won that one as well. So that's 2 right there of their close losses that could have gone either way. Well, Sacramento last night, they blow the lead. Westbrook hits the shot out of the corner. Houston put themselves in a position to, I would say 9 out of 10 times they win that game in Sacramento. So is there an actual concern that needs to be addressed with this team? Or is this just more they're an anomaly with how many times they've flipped the coin and it's been the other side? Carly, what's up? Says, I think these late game scenarios are exposing Ime's lack of schemes in crunch time. And 2, where we miss Fred VanVleet's composure the most. Lack of schemes in crunch time. When you say lack of schemes, you are talking about the lack of originality in getting Kevin Durant open, I assume. I guess that's a fair assessment. If Kevin Durant just gets the ball at the half-court line and holds it, he's going to draw a double team, and then the ball's going to swing around the perimeter, and someone's going to shoot the basketball where you probably would have preferred KD to just go against a double team than a wide-open shot for a supplementary role player. Josh Okogie's been shooting the ball a lot better, but would you rather have, down by 1, would you rather have Kevin Durant pull up against a double team for the win, or Josh Okogie wide open in the corner? Wide open. Like, take all the time in the world you want. You get 1 shot. Which of those would you prefer, whether you're a Rockets fan or not? Because the defenses, the last 3 games against the Rockets have said, we will accept even Reed Shepherd getting wide open looks in the corner, who's a significantly better volume 3-point shooter than Josh Okogie. They're willing to live with that. Shaden in the chat says, I'm going to Pistons Blazers tonight. Anything you like on the board? Oh, this is probably the main event of the evening, my friends. Not a great slate. Magic and Warriors maybe up there, but there's no Franz Wagner for Draymond to troll and make fun of. Toumani Camara is going to see a lot of Cade Cunningham tonight. So I'm totally not against under 27.5. 28.5. Look at that. Only minus 130. Under 28.5. Cade Cunningham tonight. I think Toumani will put in enough work on him so that he has to defer or distribute the basketball more than take shots himself. Wayne says, enough of these stop talking about these good teams. Let's talk some Grizzlies. No, I don't think I will. They played some decent hoops lately, but I can't dedicate enough of the show to him. Carly says, like yesterday, the Kings blitzed KD and the team had no idea what to do for some reason. And Ime never considered calling a timeout to find a counter to that blitz. It was just silly. Let me read that again. The Kings blitzed KD and the team. Okay, so what you're saying is everyone was just standing around when the entire world knew there was a double team coming. The Kings had that French kid, Renault. He's the tallest guy on the floor for Sacramento. There's no way he's even close to 7 feet. They didn't have any rim protectors whatsoever. So they were running this whole obvious double team because we have fleet of foot point of attack defenders that can all scramble and potentially close out. And what do long shots result in? Long rebounds. So we're willing to bet if you guys miss, it won't be as detrimental to us against a very good offensive rebounding team in the Houston Rockets because we have dudes defending on the perimeter that can still rebound. Yeah, but Carly, are we having this conversation with the Rockets if they find a way to win 2 of these 5 clutch or overtime games that they've recently lost? I don't think we are. Is this a process or a results conversation? Because Kevin Durant has been killing. But ultimately, when they lose, the topic of conversation revolves around him being double teamed and not being able to be utilized in the way that you want to. It's that final 30 seconds, which is now eclipsed the first 47-30 before it. No one was talking about the performance in New Orleans, the perfect performance in New Orleans, because the Pelicans set a franchise record coming back from 25 points to beat them. Is it still too early to panic in that they don't have a veteran point guard that can be on the floor in those final seconds to make sure that Kevin Durant is always receiving the ball in a advantageous position? Inbounding the ball to him at the half-court logo serves no purpose because you can get away with double teaming. Perhaps that's the solution here. It's not the holidays in the past. Who else? Well, it was nice to have Tari Eason back, and we haven't even seen them. What's up with Dorian Finney-Smith, by the way? Is he ever going to play basketball for this team? Oh, Shaden was asking. Sorry, let me check in on. So OKC tonight. No Chet. No Jay Will. No Hartenstein. No Caruso. Is asking about J-Dub rebounds. What are my options here? Man, who's going to play? Who are they going to put at center? Golly. Honestly, I'm taking Shai's over on rebounds. Can I get 4.5? Shai's going to be needed on the glass a lot tonight. I don't think J-Dub is the pick. I think it's Shai. And considering his usage, if he's out there in the fourth quarter, this should hit pretty easy. What you need is the Grizzlies to stay close so that he has the opportunity to get there. I'll take over 5.5 at plus 112 is the answer. 5.5 rebounds with all those big guys out for OKC tonight. It doesn't matter for the result. They're still probably going to steamroll regardless, but it is what it is. Helwick asks, do you think Zion Williamson off the bench experiment sustains due to the success? Pelicans have won multiple games in a row. I do wonder, do you guys, well, let me premise this by saying that I obviously know a lot about the Pelicans because of who my radio partner is, as well as still having friends in the organization. But what I'm about to suggest, I do not have any inside info on. But let's go over the process of what happened with Zion Williamson recently. He was ruled out for 3 weeks due to, was it abductor this time around? I've lost track of all the different injuries he's been classified. He just comes out of nowhere and returns to the lineup. And he's brought off the bench concurrently with Derek Queen going bonkers for the Pelicans as a rookie. Zion has now lost his starting spot. And I wonder if him being out continues to be this leverage play as he's continuously put his name on the trade block, either indirectly or unintentionally. His representation seems to suggest that he would love a new change of venue. So when he sits out for 3 weeks, I'm going to keep doing this until you trade me. But then Derek Queen emerges. People forget about Zion. He starts to lose trade value. And then he comes back all of a sudden and says, oh, I'm good. I can play. And then negotiation is you're going to come off the bench. And it's actually worked. Same with Victor Wembanyama. He's been coming off the bench. Some games he doesn't even enter until halfway through the second quarter. But then he ends up getting to the 20-minute mark of whatever his restriction is. So the question was asked originally, do I think Zion Williamson off the bench experiment sustains due to the success? Which means, will Zion continue to be brought off the bench? And I don't think Zion has a choice anymore. I think his power within the organization has been diminished. The franchise is no longer reliant on structuring a roster around him or building for his future anymore. If you want to come back and play, dude, great. We'll fit you right into the rotation. But you're not going to start. You're not going to start. You don't have this power over us where you are dictating terms to our training staff, our front office, and our coaching, or not you personally, but your representation, dictating all of the terms. You can either come play under Borrego and how he wants to utilize your talents, or you just continue to sit out, but we're moving on without you. That's the vibe that I get, again, with no proprietary info from my partner or my connections there. I just have a feeling that's what's happening. Is Zion kind of got left behind? Oh, now I'm feeling better. I'm good. Get me back in there. I'm you know what? I'm fine. I don't need to be out 3 weeks. I don't know. I think he'll ultimately get traded, but yeah, it's working for now. The Western Conference was supposed to have the parity, by the way, and 10th place has a worse record. Or I looked at this last week. You could get into the play-in tournament with a worse record in the Western Conference than you could in the Eastern Conference. So that 10 spot is still very achievable for a Pelicans team that may get DeJounte Murray back at some point. Herb Jones is back in the lineup. They're playing decent basketball. I'm not ruling out the possibility of them getting to the play-in tournament by any means, especially with Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen looking like this. They nailed those draft picks. Jeremiah Fears is so fast. And he can finish. He's tough at the rim. He's so young, too. When he starts filling out, when he starts getting a little hair on his chin, that dude's going to have some presence. I don't want to compare anybody to Kyrie Irving's finishing ability at the rim. But Dylan Harper and Jeremiah Fears, the way that they move just resembles what makes Kyrie Irving so special. The way that they spin the ball off the glass and the tough finishes for being undersized. No one is Kyrie Irving. No one is Steph Curry. But if you want to be a small guard who survives in the NBA today, you have to be able to finish at the rim. Otherwise, what purpose do you have out there? Wayne says, I just want to know why the Grizz have had 5+ players out every game for the past 3 to 4 years. It's no longer bad luck. You're not the only team that's going through it. You're not the only team. It's just the NBA we live in nowadays. But you got a couple of players in Jaren Jackson and John Morant that have never been durable. Zach Edey is 7'5" of human being. I don't think humans are meant to be 7'5", and especially running at the pace that they do in today's game with north of 110 possessions per game, having to shoot threes, defend on the three-point line. They're not just anchored to the restricted area anymore. Running on a linear path from block to block is a lot easier than having to defend floppy action when you're 7'5". That's my only guess. My only guess as to how and why there are so many calf injuries in today's game. Nick's Demon says Jalen Brunson has also been killing, yet he's not brought up in MVP conversations. Well, you're saying MVP first place conversations. Do we have it? Hold on a second. Do we have this up on? Give me a second here, people. I'm just curious what the futures are on ProfitX. No futures here. NBA streaks? What is this? I was going to look up the odds. Oh, Shea to score 20 plus points. All right. Yeah, there's no MVP odds, I don't think, on the website right now. Okay, sorry about that. The reason why I was going to bring this up is because Jalen Brunson is in MVP conversations, but he's in the fourth, fifth place conversation, not first place. The voters are required to first through fifth place, and they're assigned a certain amount of points based on if they are given the silver, the bronze, so on and so forth. So the most recent straw poll had Shea and Jokic really close on points. And because of Luka's presence this year, he may end up getting a couple of first place votes that normally would go to Shea instead. And that person may put Jokic in third place. That's a big decrease in points. So with that third party being included in this election, you have to talk about which place you would assign each player, because that does matter. I think ultimately Shea and Jokic will get the most amount of first place votes. Luka will get the third most amount. But everyone that votes Luka, first place MVP at the end of the season. That means either Shea or Jokic has to be third. Which of those players are you putting third? Because that will determine who actually wins the award. Absolutely. Now, if Luka's injury results in him not qualifying for the 65-game rule, then this is all for naught because he got a contusion against the Clippers on Saturday night. But with Cade, so there's going to be Cade, Jalen Brunson, and Jaylen Brown are all probably competing for, and I guess Victor Wembanyama too, if he qualifies. Those are going to be the names that you hear for fourth and fifth place. So this is my way of responding to you saying Jalen is in the MVP conversation. It's just not the first place MVP conversation, because he will get an amount of points that does get him some recognition in the top five. More Rockets chat. Appreciate you guys stopping by today. I think it's unsettling, even if those are wins. For me, it comes back to the point guard issue. We need that composure to set up KD or Şengün. Underrated aspect of, well, just basketball in general, but it's at the NBA level. I don't think you need to have played in the NBA to assess the difficulty of entry passes to your team's best player is an aspect of the game that is taken for granted. No good defense is ever just going to let you pass the ball to your team's best player with the game on the line. Those entry passes and where they receive them is absolutely a skill, especially when that floor general and that point guard is being hounded defensively themselves, trying to force an 8-second violation, trying to strip you. You need someone that is under control and can make a pass so that, hey, Kevin Durant, I'm kind of in trouble over here. Come get the basketball from me 40 feet away from the rim. That serves no purpose. That just eliminates Kevin Durant from the play, regardless of how much you want to get him the basketball or any of these stars. When you don't have that table setter, when you don't have that spearhead, there are guys in this league that made that shit look so easy for so long. That's why Chris Paul was the point god. He always executed with precision, exactly where the ball needed to be in those final moments, whether he was shooting it himself in the mid-range jumpers or not. Rondo, another great example of someone that would always find Kevin Durant or Ray Allen in the exact spot that they needed to in the most clutch of moments, right? We go down this list. Even Mike Conley Jr. is different in 2025 than when he was with the grit and grind Grizzlies, but that's another example of a traditional point guard that I felt like would always put the guy who needed the ball down the stretch in the right spot. Did Zach Randolph ever have to go running out to the three-point line for a dribble handoff? No. He parked that rear end down on the block, put his left hand into the air and said, put it right here, Mike. Put it right here. I don't care how you make it happen. Just put the ball right here. And Mike Conley was able to do that almost every time down the floor when not all point guards can say the same. They turn the ball over. It's inaccurate. It disrupts the flow of offense. I never want to understate the importance of someone that doesn't end up in the box score because all they did was dribble up and drop a ball off and then run to the other corner. That is absolutely a skill. And the best teams have guys that can make sure the best player on the team is always getting the ball where they ask for it. And the Houston Rockets do not have that guy on their team right now. Is Caruso out because he got stuck in College Station as a guest picker? He's not Johnny Manziel. Who knows what Johnny was up to, why he missed College game day. Hodor in the chat is asking, if I could bring back an active former Knick from another team, who would it be and why is it Hartenstein? Well, yeah, I mean, I admittedly, Carly will call me out on this if I don't address it. I was low on the Hartenstein acquisition to begin with because I was remembering the Isaiah from the Houston Rockets days. How was he going to fit in here? But he ended up being a tremendous passer. The float game, like that put shot is near 100%. I didn't think it had improved to that extent. Good chemistry guy, all the above. But right now the Knicks have Mitchell Robinson with Karl Anthony Towns. So I would say having Hartenstein to fill in that Gershon Yabusele role is just a little bit of overkill because we can't find enough play time for the three of them. And Mitchell Robinson's got to be on the floor. Wayne Train says, Edey told the staff he was 80% and the staff held him out for 6 weeks. Just ridiculous. It's obvious they are making a long-term play to move the team to Nashville. How deep into not just Grizzlies Reddit, how deep are you into r/Grizzlies conspiracies are you? That's not an accusation because it would be hypocritical as someone who loves putting tinfoil on their head. But you got to be deep down in the Grizzlies content hole to be thinking like that. Phil says, I love that Cade is in the convo. Why are the Cavs struggling so much, especially against sub-500 teams? I don't think this team can win a title as constructed. Donovan Mitchell cannot be a number one option on a contender. Whoa. I was reading. Donovan Mitchell could be a number one option on a contending team. How many of those 50 balls do you need from him in the playoffs to be convinced of that? He's an absolute star, but maybe you think that way because he's undersized, right? I'm as tall as Donovan Mitchell. If I'm as tall as him, can that player be the best player on a championship team in 2025 NBA when 7'5" guys are playing point guard and shooting threes? There's multiple of them. I understand if you said it that way. But they're struggling this year because, first of all, they're banged up. They've lost all their chemistry that got them to the number 1 seed last year because they don't have any lineups that remain consistent. And we learned this from the Clippers that year that they tried to manipulate the whole load management ethics rule book. In that one night, it's going to be Paul George. The next night, it's Kawhi. This is when they were at their absolute best. We're just going to go back and forth, back and forth. And then in March, we'll start playing them together so that they can build their chemistry for the playoffs. The problem was one got hurt in March, and then they never ended up playing together. So when we got the final product, it was not prepared for playoff basketball, and they ended up falling short. Who's my top 5 all-time in order? Kareem, Jordan, LeBron, Russell, Magic. The more interesting one is 6 through 10 because the 10 spot is always the most controversial. 1 through 9 is pretty consensus. Where do you guys put Shaq is the question. Oh, bring back DiVincenzo is the answer. If we're looking for the proper Yabusele replacement, I would think it would be DiVincenzo, but why would Minnesota want to trade him? Especially with their lack of any sort of guard play that creates gravity at the moment outside of Anthony Edwards. DiVincenzo can spread that floor and dribble the basketball and hit big shots and defend positions 1 through 5. He's almost their equivalent of OG Anunoby, if not for Jaden McDaniels. Some of us were part of the Hardy Hive, trademarked since 2020. Him and Harden were supposed to be the upgraded Harden Capella. I just don't remember Isaiah being that as influential as he is now on that Rockets team. He was also shooting more threes then than he is now. He's obviously important. I love that he actually boxes out, closes out defensive possessions, rebounds. I love that put shot is a way of spacing the floor that doesn't require being an elite 3-point shooter. He has something you actually have to pay attention to and defend with him as an offensive creator. OKC's tough. I don't trust anyone who doesn't think Jokic is – well, the career's not done yet. Jokic has 1 title. He has 1 title. I will wait to put him because there's – okay. Do I have him above Kareem or Shaq? No. But I may if he ends up winning 2 more titles. You feel me on that? Like, he's obviously talented enough. What else was I going to say? Ihart's passing and ability to make free throws puts him ahead of Mitch Rob, to be honest. They play the same defense. But Mitchell Robinson, Hartenstein's a great offensive rebounder, but nobody is Mitchell Robinson. Nobody's even close right now. Like, when your team eventually plays the Knicks, you're going to remember me saying everything that I have. You'll be like, oh, that's why he doesn't shut the hell up about Mitchell Robinson. You'll see it for yourself when he sends your favorite team to the gallows. I can't agree that this year has parity, Helwick. This year, there are 3 teams that are going to win the NBA championship. That's usually on par with what occurred during the 2010s. It was Golden State, Cleveland, and either San Antonio or Houston were the realistic 3. This year it's Denver, OKC, the East. The Knicks are going to win 1 game in the finals against the Thunder, maybe 2. So can I can I say that they are serious championship contenders when I don't think they have much of a chance against the West? Maybe. So 3 or 4 teams right now. The parity is supposed to exist in the middle class. And even in the Western Conference right now, it's still extremely top heavy to the point you can get into that play-in tournament for less than the East. So that is not an excuse for Stars to be able to run the table with 3 titles in 5 years. I don't expect there to be a three-peat. But no, because there's parity, we need to excuse Jokic for only having 1 ring versus the Shaqs and the Kareems. I can't get there. Now, OKC repeating seems obvious as of December 22nd, but they've shown a little bit of their mortality lately. And let's not forget, we were speaking about the Boston Celtics the same way last year at this point that we are about Oklahoma City. They're invincible. They've broken the game. We said this about Boston last year. They broke the game of basketball with the amount of threes that they're taking. Everyone's trying to replicate and emulate them. Who's going to beat Boston in a 7-game series? They're a walking, breathing math equation that no one is equipped to be able to keep up with. And they ended up losing in the second round. Of course, Tatum got hurt, but Shea can get hurt. There's different forms of adversity that can affect these teams. Denver is worthy of the conversation. Houston, of course, is in the vicinity. Maybe even Minnesota, who just pulled off that victory against them, can have something to say about it. The Lakers, kind of, I don't trust them as far as I can throw them defensively, but I don't think it's as much of a guarantee that OKC is going to repeat because of how much shit can happen. Nolan says Brunson versus Shea's foul baiting may be the equalizer. Well, yeah. But these players have to flop to get calls. Otherwise, you end up like Shaquille O'Neal. And LeBron says this shit a lot too. Like, if he doesn't flop, he's going to get the worst whistle in the NBA because he's so big. He's so versatile. He's stronger and faster than everyone else. Shaq should have had 10,000 more whistles in his favor than he got. But they never, because he's so big and dudes bounce off of him like bugs against a windshield, he never got those borderline foul calls because of his strength being perceived to be such an advantage by the referees. The rulebook is not enforced the same way for every player as much as they want to. They're human beings. We talked about this earlier, man. How difficult it must be for the referees to remain objective with these players just in their ears for like 2.5 straight hours. You got fans courtside. You are on the take. You are rigging the game. Refs, you suck. Refs, you suck. How they have to always just remain mellow. They have to remain even-keeled and stoic and have to perform their duties without bias or judgment when you've got players verbally assaulting them. And Chris Finch saying, did you see the shit that he said to those referees? You are a piece of fucking shit. Like, it got personal. How am I as a person just supposed to take that and not want to tilt the scale of that game against Minnesota because you just emasculated and insulted me as a man or woman? How is a judge supposed to sentence someone who has committed a crime when, if they're affiliated with the mafia or a gang and they keep sending you messages, we know where your family lives, we know where your daughter goes to school, you better give him a light sentence, otherwise we'll find you, you better make sure he's free in less than 5 years, otherwise we'll come for your daughter. Like, you're telling me the judge is still able to rule objectively with those threats over his head? The same, I just use a real life example and how the referees are supposed to go out there, not only perform their job well and with accuracy, but more importantly, without bias, without subjectivity. Whether they get calls right or wrong, they're always going to get wrong calls for a multitude of reasons. But the players and coaches' beef right now is the inconsistency with the calls and giving out technical fouls. We watched Jimmy Butler throw a ball into Dillon Brooks' chest and nothing happened. We watched LeBron James make contact with a referee and not be ejected, but Dillon Brooks ends up getting ejected. Draymond Green shoves Colin Gillespie in the back, gets automatically ejected. Meanwhile, it's just always pick and choose, and some of these seem like reputation calls more than anything. So the inconsistency of the way that some vague rules around unsportsmanlike conduct are interpreted and enforced is what these players are getting so upset about. We heard Marcus Smart and JJ Redick go off in the post-game press conference after the Clippers game about the inconsistency was the common denominator in all of their comments. And then I went and I looked at Marcus Smart's box score that night. He went 1 of 12 from the floor, 0 of 9 from beyond the arc. I'd be pretty disgruntled too. I wouldn't be in a mood to compliment the referees. And you know what? Maybe it is your fault tonight. So all of these opinions have context, because I guarantee if Marcus Smart was perfect from the floor, he wouldn't have been bitching as much as he was. Now that's unfair to him because he said it in a professional way and how he approached the referees. I can't even engage in a conversation without them teeing me up. So I'm sorry, that bitching is probably not the appropriate term, but professional complaining maybe is more accurate. Steve says, I've talked about it in here before, but the calls have been more ticky-tack this year, and it's noticeable. Last 2 years were all-time lows in free throw rate. This, the highest since 07-08. Sure seems like physicality is being enforced a lot more harshly than ever. Well, that was a fun, geez, it's been an hour. Good talk today, people. Why are you in such a good mood? Sometimes it's difficult extracting engagement and conversation with you all. And I just ran over by 17 minutes. I need to get to the fucking airport. So I got to bounce, but I ran over a little time today. Next show will be Friday. No Wednesday show because it's Christmas Eve and there are no games on. But let's keep these thoughts in storage, and we'll continue to expand on them on Friday's show. I appreciate the inspiration for the conversation today. If you guys have any interest in investing in player props and spreads and all that stuff, you can do it here at ProfitX, who our partners continue to support us as always. I'd like to reciprocate. Someone's going to win some tickets to a college football playoff, I think, from Friday's giveaway. Yeah, I'm not going too far. I go up and I go down, Los Angeles to Las Vegas. But it has been a pleasure. If I don't speak to you all before Christmas, I hope you all have a happy holiday, no matter what you celebrate. And that's really it. I'm going to be watching some basketball tonight, eat some good food, prepare for Christmas Day. We don't really get holidays covering the NBA. So it's nice to be able to spend it with you guys during the off time, as well as family and all the above. But if I'm going to be watching these games, it's nice to be able to converse with someone who's also doing the same versus the mainstream sports fan that's probably busy with football right now, right? I love discussing the little intricacies of Doug Christie bitching last night, because he was actually bitching, and it was a deserved bitching because he had to use both of his challenges on completely obvious calls, and he went to the referee and said, now I have no more challenges because you messed up. I'm going to win both of these. And and guess what? They needed that challenge for something that happened in overtime. Like, someone that recognizes that and can converse around the context of what transpired just makes it interesting for me. That's why we do these shows. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to all of you, and I will see you on the timeline. Deuces.